Why do some people start every year financially stronger, while others reset to zero every single January 1st, even though their income and life didn't really change? We've been taught that the new year is when money problems get fixed. Fresh goals, fresh motivation, new resolutions. It sounds responsible. But for most households, those promises quietly disappear before February is over. The real issue isn't effort or discipline, it's timing. Behavioral finance research shows a consistent pattern. People who do a structured year-end financial reset save about 30 to 35% more over the following year than those who rely on January resolutions alone. Not because they try harder, but because December decisions lock in systems before habits drift. My name is Alex, and today we're breaking this down into 9 financial moves that matter most before 2026. They're ordered from the easiest to overlook to the ones that quietly decide the entire year. By the end, you'll understand why December carries more weight than January. If this window is missed, nothing breaks overnight. But the pattern repeats. Same income, same pressure. Another year feels busy, not stronger. If that cycle feels familiar, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and comment December reset. Now let's start with the one number people think they know, but usually don't. How much cash is actually there? At the end of the year, many people assume they know how much cash they have. But when they slow down and try to list it clearly, the number usually fragments. Some money is in checking, some in savings, some in a money market fund, maybe even some physical cash. Until all of it is added together, it's not really understood. What matters here is liquidity. Cash only protects you if it can be accessed quickly. A practical definition is money that can be turned into usable cash within 1 to 3 business days. If accessing it requires selling long-term investments or waiting on market conditions, it doesn't function as safety. A helpful way to clarify this is by separating cash by purpose. One portion is an emergency fund. For example, if 6 months of essential expenses equals about $25,000, that number should stand alone. Then there are short-term goals. If you're also saving $20,000 toward a future home down payment, that money has a different job. Together, that's $45,000 in liquid assets, but only part of it is meant for emergencies. This distinction matters because mixed purposes create false confidence. Too little cash forces rushed decisions. Too much cash quietly loses purchasing power over time. The right amount depends on real expenses and real timelines. Before moving on, write down the exact number, not an estimate, because every financial decision that follows assumes this figure is correct. Free money most people walk past. Some of the easiest money to keep is the money that never hits your paycheck. Employer benefits often feel optional or secondary, so they get postponed. But structurally, they are part of compensation, and skipping them has a real cost. A common example is an employer retirement match. Many plans match contributions dollar for dollar up to a certain percentage. If someone earns $100,000 a year and the match is 4%, that's $4,000 added automatically, not over time, not based on performance. It happens simply by contributing. Yet a significant portion of workers don't take full advantage of this. The loss doesn't feel immediate, but it compounds quietly every year. There are also employee stock purchase plans at some companies. These allow employees to buy company stock at a discount, sometimes around 15%. That discount acts as a built-in buffer. Even with holding periods and tax rules, the math is straightforward. A discounted price lowers the risk compared to buying at market value. This section isn't about doing everything, it's about awareness. These programs are designed to reward participation, not perfection. When they're ignored, it's like accepting a smaller paycheck without realizing it. Before the year ends, confirm what benefits are available and whether you're using them. This isn't about chasing returns. It's about not walking past money that was already offered. The debt you're avoiding looking at. Debt often stays scattered on purpose. A car loan shows up once a month. A credit card balance sits in an app. Maybe there's a personal loan or a remaining student loan payment that feels routine. Seen individually, each balance feels manageable. Added together, the picture changes. This step starts with writing everything down in one place. Not just balances, but interest rates. That detail matters more than the total. 2 debts with the same balance can behave very differently over time. A $5,000 balance at 20% interest quietly grows faster than a much larger loan at 4%. Interest compounds, whether attention is paid or not. While savings require effort and consistency to grow, high interest debt grows automatically. That's why sorting liabilities by interest rate creates clarity. It shows which debts are actively working against you every month. Once listed, patterns usually appear. Some debts are long-term and relatively stable, like a mortgage or low-rate student loan. Others are short-term and expensive, often tied to credit cards or personal loans. These are the ones that quietly erase progress, even in years when income rises. The goal here isn't to eliminate everything at once. It's to stop guessing. Write down the total amount owed and the rates attached to it. Because without that visibility, every other financial decision is built on incomplete information. Your net worth minus the noise. Once assets and liabilities are visible, the next step is combining them into a single number. Net worth is simply what you own minus what you owe. It sounds straightforward, but how it's used makes a big difference. Some people track this number every month. Early on, that can feel motivating. But as investments grow and make up a larger share of net worth, the number can swing sharply from one month to the next. Market movements alone can add or subtract thousands of dollars without any change in behavior. That kind of volatility can be mentally draining and misleading. A more useful approach is to treat net worth as a long-term indicator. Checking it quarterly, or even once a year, often gives a clearer picture. Over those longer intervals, patterns matter more than fluctuations. Are liabilities shrinking? Are assets growing at a steady pace? Those trends reveal far more than a single monthly snapshot. Net worth works best when it's descriptive, not emotional. It's a way to understand direction, not to judge progress in real time. When it's checked too often, it encourages reaction instead of reflection. After calculating the number, record it, and choose a review interval that feels sustainable. The goal isn't constant monitoring, it's clarity without stress. Used properly, net worth becomes a calm reference point, rather than a source of pressure. The three expenses that decide everything. When people try to improve their finances, they often focus on small habits: coffee, subscriptions, minor conveniences. Those choices feel visible, but they rarely move the needle. The real leverage sits in three categories: housing, transportation, and food. Together, these usually account for 60 to 70% of total spending. Because these expenses are large and recurring, even small adjustments can create meaningful change. For example, paying $3,000 a month in rent in a high-cost city might feel fixed, but moving to a comparable place with a slightly longer commute at $2,500 a month frees up $6,000 a year. That single decision often outweighs dozens of smaller cuts. The same logic applies to transportation. Car payments, insurance, and maintenance quietly lock in long-term costs. Food works the same way. Eating out occasionally isn't the issue. Defaulting to convenience without noticing frequency is where spending drifts. This section isn't about being cheap. It's about being intentional. When these three expenses run on autopilot, savings and investing are forced to adapt around them. When they're reviewed deliberately, everything else becomes easier. Before the year ends, list what you're actually spending in these three areas. Not ideal numbers, real ones. Because these categories don't just affect budgets, they shape how much flexibility you have next year, before discipline even enters the picture. The tax rule that changes outcomes. Taxes often feel like something that happens at the end of the year, after decisions are already made. In reality, tax rules respond to timing. One of the most practical examples is tax loss harvesting, which uses losses to offset gains rather than letting each stand alone. Consider a simple scenario. An investment purchased earlier in the year is now down $5,000. Another investment was sold at a $7,000 profit. Without any adjustment, taxes are owed on the full gain. But by realizing the loss, the taxable gain drops to $2,000. The math changes the outcome, even though the overall market exposure may stay similar. This only works if positions are truly exited. The wash sale rule prevents selling a security and immediately buying it back to claim the loss. If the same asset is repurchased within 30 days, the loss can't be used for tax purposes. That rule exists to make sure losses reflect real decisions, not accounting tricks. There's also a longer view. Large losses don't disappear in one year. They can be carried forward and used to offset gains in future years. A portion can even reduce taxable income each year within limits. This isn't about gaming the system. It's about understanding how timing interacts with taxes. When used thoughtfully, it reduces friction and preserves capital without increasing risk. The leaks you can fix with one call. Some of the easiest financial wins don't come from earning more or investing better. They come from stopping small leaks that repeat every month. Many recurring bills are not as fixed as they appear, but they rarely get reviewed once they're set up. Cable and internet services are a common example. Calling near the end of the year and asking about discounts or promotional pricing often leads to lower rates, especially if a contract extension is offered. Insurance works the same way. Auto, home, and health policies can usually be compared or renegotiated without changing coverage. A few calls can reveal meaningful differences in monthly cost. Credit cards are another overlooked area. While interest rates are often assumed to be non-negotiable, a simple request can sometimes lead to a reduced rate or a temporary promotional offer. Even a small reduction changes how much interest accumulates over time. The math here is simple. Saving $100 a month doesn't feel dramatic, but over a year, that's $1,200. Over several years, it compounds into flexibility. Unlike income boosts, these savings don't require ongoing effort once they're set. This section isn't about optimization, it's about maintenance. Before the year ends, review recurring charges and ask whether they still make sense. Small adjustments here quietly support every other financial decision that follows. Money that never gets taxed twice. Not all savings accounts are equal. Some are designed to be taxed repeatedly. Others are structured to reduce or eliminate taxes altogether. Two of the most effective examples are Roth IRAs and health savings accounts, but only when they're used correctly. A health savings account is often misunderstood as just a place to park money for medical bills. In reality, it offers 3 layers of tax advantage. Contributions reduce taxable income. Growth inside the account is not taxed. Withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are also tax-free. That combination is rare. Yet many people leave HSA balances sitting in cash, never investing them, which limits the benefit. Contribution limits exist, but the more important detail is usage. An HSA invested in low-cost index funds can quietly grow for decades while remaining available for future health expenses. Roth IRAs work differently, but the principle is similar. Contributions are made with after-tax dollars, but growth and withdrawals in retirement are tax-free. For those above income limits, a conversion through a traditional IRA allows access, as long as existing pre-tax balances are handled carefully. These accounts aren't shortcuts, they're containers. When money is placed inside and invested, taxes stop compounding against it. Before the year ends, confirm whether these accounts are available and whether the money inside them is actually working. The structure matters more than the label. The number that tells the truth. There is one financial number that quietly reveals more than income, net worth, or goals. That number is your savings rate. It shows what happens after real-life expenses, not what's planned or intended. Calculating it is straightforward. Take your average monthly income and subtract your average monthly spending. The difference is what you're saving. Divide that by income, and you have your savings rate. This includes retirement contributions, pension contributions, stock purchase plans, and taxable investing. It's a snapshot of behavior, not ambition. A common target is saving around 15 to 20% of income. Some people manage more, often because systems are already in place. What matters isn't hitting a perfect number, it's knowing where you stand. Without that clarity, progress is assumed rather than measured. Savings rate also exposes trade-offs. Increasing income doesn't automatically raise it. Cutting spending in the wrong places doesn't either. The rate improves when systems align with priorities. This section connects directly to the year ahead. Instead of setting multiple financial goals, focusing on 1 or 2 measurable targets tied to savings creates better follow-through. Attaching a clear number forces realism. Before moving on, calculate your current rate, because it tells the truth about how money is actually flowing, not how it feels like it should be. Key takeaways. The difference between a strong financial year and another reset rarely comes down to effort. It comes down to structure. When cash is clearly defined, debt is visible, and large expenses are reviewed deliberately. Pressure decreases without adding complexity. Free money only works when it's claimed. Tax advantages only matter when accounts are actually used. Small leaks, left unattended, quietly undo progress over time. What ties everything together is measurement. Net worth, reviewed calmly. Savings rate, calculated honestly. One or two clear goals attached to real numbers instead of intentions. None of these steps are dramatic. That's why they work. They remove friction instead of demanding motivation. If this breakdown helped clarify where your system stands, subscribe and stay with the channel. Comment December Reset to mark the moment you chose structure over drift. And if you know someone who keeps starting over every January, share this with them. Sometimes the most helpful move isn't doing more. It's seeing the system clearly before the year turns.